When my son looked me in the eyes that evening and said, "You'll never be like my father-in-law," something inside me cracked. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just said it. Quietly. Coldly. And somehow, that hurt more than 1,000 angry words. My name is Walter Hayes, and I'm 71 years old. I've lived long enough to know that respect, once lost, is harder to earn back than money. But I never thought I'd have to earn it from my own son. It all started 3 years ago, when my wife, Martha, passed away. She was the glue that held our little family together. My son Daniel, his wife Claire, and our 2 grandkids. After her death, I moved in with them because the silence of our old house was unbearable. At first, things were fine. Claire was kind, polite even. Daniel seemed happy that I was around. But slowly, things changed. Claire's father, Richard, began visiting more often. He was a retired businessman, always dressed sharp, always talking about investments, golf clubs, and luxury cruises. Daniel adored him. Whenever Richard came over, my son would light up, laughing, asking for advice, hanging on his every word. I didn't mind at first. After all, it's good for a man to have strong role models. But soon, it became clear that my presence didn't carry the same shine. One night, we were all having dinner. I'd just finished telling an old story about fixing the roof during a storm when Richard arrived unannounced, as he often did. Daniel immediately jumped up to greet him. "Dad, you wouldn't believe the deal Richard just closed," Daniel said, excitement shining in his eyes. "He sold his company for almost $2 million. "That's impressive," I said, smiling politely. "Congratulations, Richard." "Thank you, Walter," Richard replied smoothly, his Rolex catching the light. "We old guys have to keep our hands busy, right?" The table chuckled. Except me. Later that night, after everyone went to bed, I sat alone on the porch, sipping tea. The stars were out, the air cold, and my heart heavier than ever. I wasn't jealous, not of the money, not of the fancy clothes. What hurt was how small my son made me feel in front of him. A few weeks later, Daniel came to me with a strained smile. "Dad," he began, "Claire and I were talking, and we think it's time you moved back to your place. The kids are growing. We need space, and—" I didn't let him finish. I simply nodded. "I understand, son." But before I walked away, he added quietly, almost as an afterthought, "You'll never be like her father, Dad. He's someone I really look up to." That line, "You'll never be like him," echoed in my head all night. When I got back to my old house, dust covered everything. Martha's picture still hung on the walls, her knitting basket still beside the couch. I sat down and whispered to her photo. "Did we fail, Martha? Did I?" For days, I lived in silence, replaying Daniel's words. Then, one morning, I got a call from an old friend, Tom, who ran a small community center for underprivileged kids. Their roof had collapsed during the storm, and they didn't have funds to fix it. Without thinking twice, I grabbed my old tools and drove there. For 3 days, I worked like a man half my age, repairing, painting, and organizing donations. The kids called me Grandpa Walt. Their laughter filled the cracks in my heart. Word spread in town about what I'd done. Local news even wrote a small story. Retired carpenter restores community center for kids. It wasn't fame, it wasn't fortune. But for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. A month later, I received an unexpected visit from Daniel. He stood at the door, looking uncertain. "Dad, I saw you in the paper," he said softly. "Claire showed me. The kids were so proud I just smiled. It's nothing big, son. Just trying to stay useful." He walked inside, his eyes scanning the newly cleaned living room. "You look different, happier." We sat down, and for the first time in years, he listened to me talk about helping those kids, teaching them to build, watching them learn. When I mentioned one boy who'd lost his father and how we'd built a birdhouse together, Daniel's eyes began to glisten. "Dad," he said after a pause, "I didn't realize how much you still do for people." I shrugged. We all make our mark in different ways, son. Some build companies. Others build hearts. He swallowed hard, his voice breaking slightly. I was wrong, Dad. I thought success was about money, about being like Richard. But when I saw those kids hugging you in the photo, I realized what real respect looks like. That weekend, Daniel brought his whole family over. Even Claire seemed genuinely warm this time. She helped me set the table while Daniel played with the kids outside. During dinner, my grandson suddenly blurted out, "Grandpa Walt, Daddy says you're a hero." I laughed, shaking my head. "Oh, I don't know about that." But Daniel interrupted, smiling proudly. "You are, Dad. You always were. I just forgot to see it." A few days later, something remarkable happened. Richard himself showed up at my doorstep. "I hear you've become quite the celebrity, Walter," he said with a polite grin. I offered him tea. We talked for a while, and I realized something surprising. Beneath the polish and pride, Richard was just another man searching for purpose after retirement. Before he left, he extended his hand. "Those kids are lucky to have you. You've inspired even me to do something meaningful." I smiled. "It's never too late, Richard. Maybe we can volunteer together sometime." When Daniel dropped by that night, he hugged me before leaving. Something he hadn't done in years. "Dad," he said, "you may not have Richard's money, but you have something he never had. A heart that people remember." That night, I went to bed smiling. Martha's photo sat on the bedside table, and for the first time, I felt at peace. Because I finally understood, being a father isn't about wealth or status. It's about love that lasts even when everything else fades. And sometimes, the people who underestimate you just need to see you shine quietly before they remember who you really are. Moral: respect isn't earned through riches or reputation. It's built through kindness, humility, and heart. And sometimes, the greatest way to teach a lesson is to live it.